Yes, well, I'm going to show you some images of some of our big cases over the last year, and talk about some of the issues that those raise. But before I do that, I just wanted to say some thank yous and some introductions. So Grace Etherington, who was my full-time caseworker and did an absolutely excellent job, has gone off to do a PhD in Edinburgh. So I'm delighted for her that she will be very sorely missed. And I was, I must say, somewhat apprehensive about how easy it would be to recruit a new person remotely and get them up to speed without being able to be there in the office. Normally, when I get a new caseworker, you know, there's a lot of initial conversations and looking at drawings together in the office, and you know, going on site visits with them, it was very hard to imagine how we might manage to really give someone that grounding under COVID. It's early days, but we have appointed Coco Whitaker, who I hope is now going to display herself to you. You're going to turn on your camera, Coco, and say hello. I don't know whether this will work. Hopefully it will. Hello. I can't see you. Can everyone else see you, do you think?
Oh, it says it's my camera's working.
Yes. Oh, there you are. Yeah, no, you've popped up. So Coco is just finishing up a postgraduate architectural history MST course at Cambridge, and she's been writing about Pithead Baths. Well, she's still writing about Pithead Baths, I think, aren't you, more realistically?
Yeah.
But has made a really good start. She's only been with us, I think, 2 weeks, and will be doing, will be our full-time caseworker going forward. So I just wanted you to see Coco, sadly not in the flesh, but how we distribute the casework is explained on the website. Basically, Claire, who I hope is here as well and might now say hello too. Are you there, Claire? Maybe not. Well, hopefully, oh yes, there she is. Yeah. So Claire is our head of casework and works 3 days a week. The rest of the time she is doing a PhD on interwar churches at Oxford, and some of you may have seen her lecture that related to her research. That was the first lecture in our series on churches that's this autumn lecture series. And if you missed it, there is a mechanism by which you can catch up. But I think it's slightly difficult to, well, I'm not sure that we've quite got the technology. I think if you wish to catch Claire, at the moment you need to email Kate and ask. So Claire will do all our churches casework and some parts of the country, and Coco gets all the rest of the country to cover. So it's a huge amount of work for both of them. It obviously means that we do have to prioritise which cases we get involved with, but it's great having such a good and enthusiastic team, and I'm very optimistic that Coco, you're going to make a great success of it. So thank you to both of you, and also a big thank you to David Heath, who continues as chair of the Casework Committee. David is enormously knowledgeable and very supportive of the caseworkers as well. So I'm really grateful to him, and indeed to all the other members of the Casework Committee who used to show up on a monthly basis at Cowcross Street and now pop up on little screens like this once a month from wherever they are around the country. And that move to doing the casework online has actually, I think, been remarkably smooth. You know, being able to share drawings and photographs on screen, it hasn't been that much different from being able to show slideshows at Cowcross Street. I think what we're really missing, though, is the ability to actually go on site visits and really experience buildings and have real face-to-face meetings with the people who are working on them. So I also want to give a big thank you to Ellen Gates, who is one of our trustees, but she is also the person who puts together all the listing news for the magazine. And she has just very recently agreed to start minuting the casework meetings, which I think is one of those incredibly important jobs that needs to be done really rigorously, but is perhaps not the most glamorous. And I'm incredibly grateful for her to stepping up and doing that. And she's fantastic. She will be really, I'm sure, very meticulous over doing that. And that will be, that's a huge relief, I think, for the caseworkers, that they don't have to do it themselves. Okay, so to talk about cases, I thought in the current circumstances, we should start with something really positive. So I'm showing here a slide of 4 buildings which we put in for listing and which we have had successfully listed. So what we have here is the 3 Ships mural by Alan Boyston in from 1963, which is on this curved front wall of what used to be the Co-op in Hull. And there's a fantastic local group there who've been campaigning really vigorously for this. It would have been nice to see the whole building listed. That wasn't to be, but the wall with the mural on has now been listed, and the proposals to completely demolish the whole building will therefore need to be reconsidered. Then on the right hand side, we've got a Barbara Hepworth sculpture in Cheltenham on what used to be the Cheltenham and Gloucester Building Society building. That was done in 1970. It was the last Barbara Hepworth public commission, and that one, I think we were really confident that that one would be listed. Barbara Hepworth's standing is such that we were confident, and I expect many of you will have heard on the news yesterday the celebration of unveiling of the blue plaque to Barbara Hepworth and her first husband John Skeeping in North London. So that was kind of a celebration of her very beginning of her career, and the listing here at Cheltenham marks the sort of end point of her career. Bottom left, we've got the Camden Sainsbury's. Well, this is actually the workshop building attached to Camden Sainsbury's. The building itself consisted of the supermarket building. It's all by Nick Grimshaw, 1985 to 1988. So it was supermarkets, some housing along the canal, and then this little workshop building. So this is a slightly less happy story in that we successfully got the supermarket and the housing listed, but this workshop building was excluded from the listing. I mean, it's definitely the least glamorous bit of the overall development, but we felt very much that it was part of the overall story, and we were sorry to see that that was excluded from the listing. Bottom right is Serge Sermayaf's own house, Bentley Wood in Sussex, 1938, amazingly wasn't listed until this year, and I think that really was one of those cases where it was Historic England looks at things that are either immediately threatened or are no-brainers, as they sometimes describe it, and I think this fantastic house definitely fell into that category, but great to see that protected. We also did quite a lot of work on landscapes this year. We published the book on 20th century gardens and landscapes, and very big thank you to Susanna Charlton for all her hard work on that. Nice also to see the Derek Darman house and garden on the front cover, that's now, there's now a trust set up and the future of that looks secure. We also here have Angelico Landscape, which is from the Cadbury factory. That was added to the registry by Historic England, who put together 20 post-war landscapes. It included 7 housing estates, including the Alton West estate, which is at the bottom. Alton West has been an ongoing case for us because although some of that incredibly important early London County Council estate are listed, some bits aren't. Some bits of the some bits are actually threatened with demolition, and we are hoping that the landscape designation may help to promote a rethink on that. It would have been nice to see more than 20 landscapes on the register, but 20 is a good start, and I think we're just wanting to encourage continuing evaluation and adding to that over time. And there are some places, some things like the Ted Hollenby South London housing estates that we would have loved to have seen on the list, and we'll carry on pushing for their preservation. This is a slide of Plymouth, and this is here just to say that we previously told you about our work on conservation areas, and that continues to have an impact. We surveyed what existing conservation areas there were that were based around 20th century sites, and we put together guidance for local authorities on how to identify potential new ones and how to go about designating them. And Plymouth has now done that, which is a great step forward. Here are some slightly sad cases, I guess, but not ones that we've completely given up on as yet. So on the left is Halifax swimming pool. This was turned down for listing, but we are actually challenging that decision at the moment. And one of the highlights of that building is this mural by Keith Barden, which is a mural about pond life. I kind of like the idea of having a pond life mural in a rather antiseptic public swimming baths. And on the right, we've got the theatre in Southampton, the Nuffield Theatre, which is by Basil Spence and Partners. The theatre's been turned down, but the sculpture in front of it in a setting designed by Spence is being looked at separately. So it's possible that well, it seems quite probable that that sculpture will end up being listed, although the theatres won't be. We had a number of major schemes to alter historic listed 20th century buildings. It's certainly by no means true that once listed a building is definitely safe. The building at the top is the Coventry, well, it was originally the building where the Coventry architects and engineering departments came together for the first time as part of the rebuilding post-war in Coventry. And that's definitely a site that we would have taken you to look at had we been able to actually meet in Coventry. That's a grade 2 listed building, but it's going to be completely surrounded by new build up to 6 stories high for the site's been sold to the university. And it really is going to be completely changed in character. And I feel that that's an absolutely devastating scheme that really does show kind of complete lack of understanding of the post-war heritage of Coventry by the local authority, which seems to me just an absolute tragedy, given how much there is in that city and how special it makes Coventry. Bottom left, we have got the City of London School for Girls. They wanted to expand by filling in under Mountjoy House in the Barbican. And we felt really strongly that those open spaces underneath the blocks are, they're not just leftover spaces, they're very much designed parts of an overall composition. And in that picture there, you can see the very, very beautiful way in which light penetrates that space that would have been filled in. So luckily that scheme has gone away. Bottom right, we have Dennis Lasdon's IBM building that sits right next to the National Theatre. That we have successfully campaigned to have listed. There's a scheme there for a massive extension and for a complete rethink of how it works in relation to the Riverside Walkway. We have been putting a lot of pressure on that developer to think again in the light of the listing. And the good news at the moment is that the scheme has been withdrawn. I know they're still contemplating what they're going to do, and we are awaiting a further meeting to discuss what might be acceptable in listed building terms on that site. Social housing, we saw the listing of Lubetkin's civil house in Bethnal Green, which is really positive. I think it's sort of not, it is the works that are associated with famous names architects are always much easier to get listed than ones that are kind of embedded in a local authority tradition. And even though Central Hill in Lambeth is very much part of the overall work of Ted Hollenby, that was turned down. And that seems to me to be particularly sad, as I think it's a really good exemplar of how to do good high density housing, and you know, that we could learn from for building new today. This is one of the most recent cases, and it's a building by Hopkins and Partners, and it's on Shad Thames, so in just by Tower Bridge, sort of behind where the old design museum used to be. And it was built originally for David Mellor, the cutlery designer, and he was going to have a penthouse flat there in his workshop underneath. Sadly, the recession kind of put paid to that, and it ended up being Terence Conran's penthouse for quite a long time. That's up for, those are the proposals to again put a massive, both a roof extension and a side extension on that. So we put that in for listing, but we're pleased that the local authority are regarding it as being on their local list. And partly this is here because I wanted to draw your attention to the piece that in the most recent magazine, where we explain about the processes of local listing and the potential it has for flagging up the significance of 20th century buildings. And the government, I think, has very recently promised money towards more local listings. So I think local listing is going to become more and more significant. And then Derby Assembly Rooms. This, we frequently cite the kind of environmental impact of demolition as being a major additional reason for just not destroying buildings that we care about for their architectural and historic reasons. And this is a case which I think would be absolutely scandalous if this building were demolished. It's been turned down for listing and has a certificate of immunity which runs out at the beginning of next year. And I think in anticipation of that, the local authority have put in a planning application to demolish it without any substantial proposals for what might happen long term on this site afterwards. It's a building by Cass and Conda. It's beautifully detailed. There's a lot of local support for this one as well. Have a look on the website if you'd like to know more about it. And also on the website, there's a link to local architects. I'm very sorry, I can't. Well, there's a link to a very well organised, Robert Evans, sorry, I'm very sorry, Robert. He has put together a petition to campaign to promote the retention and conversion of that building, and it'd be great if more people could look that up and join the campaign by signing on the petition. And finally, church work continues to be a big part of what we do. This is a church, St Winifred's Testwood in Southampton from 1937 by Cashvale Day. If it looks familiar, it's because it appeared in Claire's talk last week. I think this is a church she's particularly fond of. And it is fantastic and really, really high quality brickwork. This is a a church where the problem is not a dwindling congregation, but it's become an evangelical plant church, so that there's a new evangelical congregation moving into this church, and they want to make their presence known. And what they initially wanted to do was build a cafe that kind of spilled out the front through those arches, and tacked on the front of this portion of the building that we're looking at now. Claire has been spending a lot of time with them, and I think has been very successful in explaining to them just what a fantastic building this is. And at the moment, the proposal is for a cafe that's recessed within that colonnade, which seems potentially a really positive way forward. So I think that's the end of my slides.
Thank you, Catherine.
I hope that's given you an overview of the kind of very mixed bag of things that we've been dealing with.
Thanks. Thank you, Catherine.
We're definitely missing going out to see the buildings.